There is one file in your Claude Code project that controls how the AI thinks about your entire code base. Most people either don't know that it exists or leave it completely empty. And then they wonder why Claude or any other agent keeps asking the same questions, forgetting their architecture and writing code that doesn't fit the project. I am going to show you how I set this file up from a basic version you can use in just 5 minutes to a super nice trick which gets Claude to write it for you. This file is called CLAUDE.md. As you can see right here, it sits in the root of your project, and everything you write in it becomes permanent context for every conversation that Claude has in that project. Think of it like the onboarding docs for a new developer joining your team, except the developer is Claude and it reads this context before every session. Now, just quickly, you might have heard of something called agents.md. This is basically the same thing. This is like the open standard, but Claude and Anthropic are just a little bit stubborn, so they keep their wording to Claude.md, but agents.md is what works with basically any other coding agent like Codex, Open Code, Kimi, all of these. But it is the same idea and the same purpose. So with the skill I have created, which you will see later on, it automatically creates agents.md and Claude.md for me, so I can switch a little bit back and forth between Open Code and Claude. But for this video, everything I show actually works for both of these. So here is the thing that most people get wrong. They think that Claude.md is just for the technical details. Your tech stack, your linting rules, your folder structure, and yeah, that stuff actually matters. But in my opinion, the most important section is something that almost no one includes, and that is your vision. So like, what is this project? What problem does it solve? Who is it for? Why does it exist? Because without this in your Claude.md file, you're carrying that entire context entirely in your head, and you are re-explaining it every session or parts of it to Claude. For example, we're building for speed here, not completeness. We want this app to be fast, not a lot of overhead. The whole point of the app is to reduce manual data entry, so why are you adding new fields? Once you put your entire vision and your thoughts about this project inside these markdown files, you never have to think about it again. And since Claude reads it before every session, your vision becomes its default lens it looks through for every decision. So here you can see a real example of this for my recently developed app, .ctx, where I have a small section for my vision of this, why it exists and why I'm building it. So this is basically a marketplace where you can monetize your markdown files and skills and all such. That is very valuable. Now after the vision, what I include is like the commands, we have the tech stack, but what also is very important here is I also include the why for the tech stack. I want to run Svelte because it's very fast and simple. Tailwind because it looks nice and such, which auth I'm using, which database, all of this. Then of course the architecture, this is like the index for your entire project. This makes it very easy for Claude to work in your project if you include something like this. Then we have like Git rules, so always commit after every change. We have the coding style, we have the critical rules with like never. Then we have the principles, we have the auths, we have the performance, API patterns, like what went wrong and what we learned so we don't do those mistakes again. The point of this markdown file is for the agent to have the most high quality context it can have at the start of every conversation. So you can avoid it going into and searching for things that you could have included here. Now, here is something that most people don't realize. Claude.md is not just one file. You can have multiple at different levels of your project. Now the one in your root, so here applies to everywhere, but you can drop another Claude.md file, say in your API folder, for example. So here I have another markdown file, and Claude automatically reads this once it goes into this folder, for example. So say it goes and should write something in this folder, then it will automatically pick up this Claude.md file and add it to the context. It gets appended. So your previous one doesn't get replaced, but this one just gets added on to that. So Claude merges these two. So the root level rules are the defaults that apply across the entire project. This should include the specifics for this folder and what it's like working with the API roots here, for example. Now, for very small projects, of course, you don't need this, but it's always nice to have extra context. But the moment your codebase starts to get bigger, you should really implement these nested Claude.md files. Alright, and here is my favorite part. You don't have to do this by hand, of course. I have built a Claude.md skill, and you can run this after your brainstorming, or you have updated your project, or you solved a massive problem in your code base. And this just makes your Claude.md file really high quality, and it saves any mistakes it did or any errors you solved or anything like that, so future sessions don't have those errors. But I would highly suggest that you either create one of these files or get my file, I will share at a later point in this video. It takes everything from your conversation, your decisions, your preferences, and it generates a proper Claude.md file with everything we have discussed so far. Your vision, your tech stack, your code style, your constraints, all of it, structured and ready. Now, of course, the same thing works for agents.md, and this file actually includes to always copy this over to an agents.md file if you're working in open code, for example. Now, I also created one for nested Claude.md files, but in reality, you could probably put these all into one file, which I would probably do in the future. But if there's anything you should take away from this video, is that you really should include a vision section in your Claude.md file. This has solved a lot of issues for me, and so really try and start with this vision segment, and also just like a quick few sentences about the project. So stop trying to re-explain your project and let this file do it for you. Now, the Claude.md files and skills that I use in this video you can find on my website, which is .ctx.ai. The skills that I used in this video for the Claude.md file you can find in my website .ctx.ai. So I have them right here. They are free, go and grab them. And these will hopefully make your life a lot easier. All you have to download it, then give it to Claude and tell it to include it in your skills. And once you run it, you will have a production ready Claude.md file in just 30 seconds. If you found this useful, I'm doing more context engineering and Claude Code workflows in the coming days. So stay tuned for that.